Okay, the Margaret Swanson Legacy and Giving Award. That's also new. It is an award named for our former board chair, Margaret Swanson, because Margaret's life was personally touched by direct care workers when she lost her daughter, Chris. She's contributed tons of time, hours, to the Iowa Caregivers Association because of that. She's a longtime community leader and activist, and particularly for her beloved east side of Des Moines. She was the driving force behind the development of the Des Moines Botanical Center. She chaired the first, is that right, Margaret, the first March of Dimes drive at the request of former Governor Ray, and has supported the Girl Scouts and a host of other community nonprofits. She is also an inductee into the Iowa Women's Hall of Fame. Naming an award for Margaret seemed fitting because she herself has and continues to receive many honors, and I personally know that they all mean a great deal to her. Recently, she provided a generous donation to the Iowa Caregivers Association from the sale of her family cabin on Lake Vermilion. And we know that selling the cabin was a very difficult decision for Margaret, and we are honored to be the recipient of such a special gift from such a special woman, which will enable us to establish our first endowment fund. This award will be presented by Margaret to a direct care worker who is in attendance at conference and has the most years of service in the field of direct care. Two people, kind of on parallel paths, though somewhat different, but legacies, sharing legacies and giving. Please join me in saying thanks to and welcoming Margaret Swanson.
You know, blue's my favorite color, but I think we're kind of overdone it, don't you? It's my pleasure to be here again. I did serve on the board, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but the time came when I decided that some of these younger people should have that opportunity and give my space to somebody else for the board. But my interest has always continued. And some of you have heard my story in the past about my daughter, Chris, who was my oldest of the three daughters. She, of course, I thought was a very remarkable person. She was in her last year of becoming an attorney, going to law school at Drake. And she had done a number of interesting things. In fact, some of you perhaps don't realize that once upon a time, women could not get a credit card unless they had their husband's or father's signature. And Chris went before the legislature and persuaded them that women had just as much a right to get something in their own name as to have a signature of a male. And there were a number of other things that she did. But the thing I wanted to talk to you folks about or let you know is what you folks did. Chris was in this automobile accident, and she lived in a coma for 13 years. She was at the Iowa Jewish Home most of that time, and there were very few days that I didn't go there, and also her father. She was never aware of us, although her eyes would be open, and she needed a lot of care because she was paralyzed and could not move. But she was alive, and you always have hope. And the caregivers were always there. And I do want to particularly mention, because I think women are wonderful, but I hope that we have more men that will also become Iowa caregivers. I think the thing that fascinated me so much one day and scared me a little bit was that there was this wonderfully tall, slender man, and he walked into the room and didn't introduce himself or anything, but all of a sudden he picked up my daughter and started dancing in the room around her, with her. And I thought, oh my gosh. She smiled, and for the first time I almost had the hopes that she was going to speak. That did not happen. But it was a marvelous feeling that I had that she was being treated as though she was going to speak, and that there was a possibility for her health to return. It did not, but I will never forget that the male danced with my daughter, and all you women that are in the field of caregivers made life possible, as good as it could be, for the 13 years that she had to live, and made it possible for us to have a very good feeling toward all of those of you who gave of their time and their love. And I thank you, and thank you.
Margaret, do you want to, can you see this?
Oh,
Or do you want me to read it, or can you see it?
if I can see this.
This is, if you want
Right.
to call her up.
Deb Bush, I have met her. She's here someplace, Deb Bush. I guess you've seen me at the table where I was.
And
Deb is a certified nursing assistant for 44 years of service in the field of direct care after 30 years at Sunnycrest Manor in Dubuque, Iowa. She came all the way from Dubuque to receive this award. And I'm very proud to give this to her.
are you going to say a few words?
Thank you, everyone. I would like to take this time to thank Margaret Swanson for this award and the Iowa Caregivers Association. I would like to thank God, family, and friends for my lengthy career as a CNA at Sunnycrest Manor. Thank you.